That afternoon, I understood that a mother's love can be the most unreturned love in the world. My name is Mary Stevens. I am 68 years old, and I'm going to tell you the most painful story of my life, but also the one that gave me back my dignity. It all started on the day of my husband, Robert's, funeral. After 43 years of marriage, I lost him on a cold November morning. He was my partner, my confidant, my refuge. I thought at that moment I would have my son, Scott, by my side. I thought he would hold me up as I fell apart, but that was not the case. The morning of the funeral, while I was finishing getting dressed in the black dress Robert had given me years ago, Scott entered my room. His gaze was hard, empty. There was no trace of the boy I had raised with so much love. "Mum, I need to talk to you," he said in a dry voice. "Scott, son, this is not the time. We have to leave in 30 minutes. You are not going." I froze. For a moment I thought I had not heard correctly. "What did you say?" He closed the door behind him, and what happened next broke my soul. "You are not going to the funeral. You are going to stay here, in silence." "But Scott, he's your father. He's my husband." "You disgust me, old woman," he said, with a contempt I will never forget. "Stay quiet. I don't want to see you there, doing your dramatic suffering widow act." And before I could react, he left the room and turned the key from the outside. He locked me in. I stood there, facing the closed door, unable to believe it. My hands were trembling. My heart was pounding so hard I felt it was going to explode. I heard the sound of the cars driving away, the voices of the guests, the murmur of condolences that never reached me. I sat on the bed and cried in silence. I cried for Robert, I cried for myself, and I cried for the son I had lost without knowing when. That day, while everyone was saying goodbye to my husband, I was locked inside my own house, like a prisoner. But what Scott did not know is that this humiliation would only be the beginning of something much bigger. Mary takes a deep breath, her voice broken but firm. Sometimes we trust too much in those we should not. Have you also been disappointed by someone you loved? Tell me your story in the comments. I want to read it. Before telling you what happened next, I need you to understand how I got to that moment. Scott was not always like this. There was a time when that boy would hug me every morning before going to school. A time when he would say, "I love you, Mum," without me asking. I remember his small hands clinging to my apron while I prepared pancakes on the griddle. I remember how he would run towards me when I came back from work, his shoes full of dirt from the yard. Robert and I raised him with all our love. We were not rich, but he never lacked for anything. Robert worked for a construction company. I gave sewing lessons at home. Between the two of us, we built a simple life, but full of warmth. Our house smelled of fresh coffee in the mornings, of freshly baked blueberry muffins on Sundays, of the gardenias I planted in the garden every spring. Scott grew up happy, or so I believed. When he turned 18, Robert and I put all our savings together to send him to the university. We wanted him to have what we did not have. We wanted him to study, to become a good man. He studied business administration. He graduated with honors. Robert was so proud he cried on the day of his graduation. I cried too, but with happiness. Shortly after, Scott met Megan. She was an elegant woman, from a good family. At first I was happy. I thought my son had found a good partner, but over time, something began to change. Megan came from a family with money, a lot of money, and little by little Scott started to look at our house differently, as if he were embarrassed by it, as if he were embarrassed by us. Visits became less frequent, calls shorter. When he came, he no longer asked, "Are you okay, son?" And he would answer, I'm fine, Mum. I'm just busy. But I knew something was breaking between us. Robert noticed it too. One night, while we were washing the dishes together, he told me, "Mary, our son is changing. It's normal, dear. He's a man now. He has his own life." "No, Mary. It's something else. I see it in his eyes. He doesn't look at us the same way anymore." I wanted to believe Robert was exaggerating. I wanted to believe a son's love is forever. But he was right. And I, in my naivety, kept trusting. I kept waiting. I kept loving. Because that's what mothers do, right? We keep loving even when we are not loved back. Mary pauses, looking out the window. As I tell all this, I think about where you will be listening to me. Write the name of your city in the comments. The first time I felt something was profoundly wrong was at Thanksgiving dinner last year. Robert and I had prepared everything with so much love. I spent days cooking roast turkey with sage and butter, Scott's favourite since he was a child, mashed potatoes, green bean casserole, apple cider simmering on the stove. The table was decorated with the embroidered tablecloth my grandmother had left me. The red candles lit up the living room. Everything smelled of cinnamon, brown sugar, and home. We had invited Scott and Megan. They had not visited us for months. I was so excited I could not sleep the night before. Robert hugged me in bed and said, "Don't worry, my love. It's going to be a beautiful evening." They arrived late, almost 2 hours late. When I opened the door, Megan came in first, wearing very high heels and a dress that seemed to cost more than our entire dining room set. She did not even greet me with a kiss, just nodded, as if I were an employee. Scott came in behind her. He gave me a cold, quick hug, one of those given out of obligation. "Hi, Mum." "Son, it's so good to see you. Come in. Come in. Dinner is ready." Robert got up from the sofa with a huge smile. He extended his hand to Scott, but our son barely touched it. "Hi, Dad." "Scott, son, it's good you made it. Come, sit down. Your mother made your favorite dish." We sat down at the table. I served the plates with such care, with so much affection. I put a generous portion of turkey on Scott's plate, just as he liked it as a child. But he barely tasted it. Megan looked at the food as if it were something strange, something that did not deserve her attention. She picked up her fork and moved the mashed potatoes from side to side, without bringing anything to her mouth. "Don't you like it, Megan?" I asked softly, trying to break the awkward silence. No, it's just, we had something to eat before coming," she replied without looking at me. Robert and I looked at each other. I felt a knot in my throat, but I smiled. "Well, at least try the cider. It's made with love." Scott sighed, a long sigh full of annoyance. "Mum, we don't have much time. We have a dinner at Megan's parents' house at 10 o'clock. I was quiet. Robert put his fork down on the plate. The sound of metal against ceramic echoed in the silence. "A dinner?" Robert asked in a soft voice. But I knew that tone. It was the tone of a wounded man. "But Scott, it's Thanksgiving. We thought you would spend the evening with us." "Dad, we are not kids anymore. We have commitments." "Commitments," Robert repeated, almost in a whisper. Megan stood up from the table. "Scott, it's late. We have to go." He stood up too, without finishing his plate. I quickly got to my feet, trying not to cry. "But son, we haven't even opened the gifts. I have something for you and for Megan." "Mum, it's not necessary. Really, we have everything already." "But Scott." "Mum, please, don't make this more difficult." Those words went through me like a knife. Robert got up too. His face was serious, but there was sadness in his eyes. "It's okay, son. If you have to go, you can go. But first, I want to give you this." Robert walked towards the Christmas tree we had decorated together a week earlier. He took a box wrapped in gold paper. He held it out to Scott. "It's a watch. It was your grandfather's. He gave it to me when I turned 30 years old. And I wanted to give it to you today, so you remember where you come from, so you never forget who you are." Scott took the box without opening it. "Thank you, Dad." And they left. Just like that, I stood in the doorway, watching them drive away in their luxurious car, with the taillights shining in the darkness of the night. The Christmas lights on the house flickered around me, but I felt all dark inside. Robert closed the door slowly. He turned towards me, and then I saw something I had never seen in 42 years of marriage. I saw my husband cry. "Mary, what did we do wrong?" I hugged him, and we both cried there, in the living room, surrounded by food that no one ate, by gifts that no one opened, by love that no one wanted to receive. That night, while I was clearing the table, I found Scott's plate almost untouched. The turkey I had prepared with so much love was cold, abandoned. I took that plate and sat alone in the kitchen, and I ate his portion. Every bite tasted salty, because I could not stop crying. Robert came in and sat beside me. He did not say anything. He just took my hand. "Maybe it's a phase," I said, trying to convince myself. "Maybe when he has children, he will be the same again." "Maybe," Robert replied. But there was no hope in his voice. That was the first real fracture. The first time I understood that something deep had broken between us. But I still did not know that this fracture was only the beginning, that the worst was yet to come, and that in a few months Robert would no longer be with me to hold me. Mary wipes a tear and takes a deep breath before continuing. After that Thanksgiving, something changed in Robert. He had always been a strong, optimistic man, one of those who make you believe that everything is going to be fine, even if the sky is falling. But after that night, I saw him fade slowly, like a candle consuming itself in silence. He started waking up later, walking slower, looking out the window for hours, as if waiting for something that never arrived. "What are you thinking about, my love?" I would ask him while serving his coffee. "Nothing, Mary, nothing important." But I knew he was thinking about Scott, about the son we had raised with so much love, and who now barely looked at us. I tried to continue with my life. I continued giving my sewing classes. I kept tending the garden. I kept cooking for Robert, trying to fill him with food because I could no longer fill him with words. But inside, I was broken too. Every time the phone rang, my heart jumped. I thought, "It's Scott. He is going to call to apologize. He is going to say he was busy, that he misses us, that he is coming to visit us." But no. Weeks passed, then months. I would send him messages. "Son, how are you? We miss you. Come have dinner when you can." Sometimes he would reply with a brief, "Fine, Mum. I'll call you later." But he never called. Robert would tell me, "Mary, let him go. If he doesn't want to come, don't force him." But he's our son, Robert. I can't stop trying. Sometimes loving is also knowing when to let go. I could not. I could not let go of my son. He was part of me, of my flesh, of my blood. He had grown inside me. I had breastfed him. I had healed his scraped knees. I had cried on his first day of school. How was I supposed to let him go just like that? So I kept trying. In March, it was Robert's birthday. He was turning 67 years old. I wanted to make a small, simple dinner, just the three of us. I sent Scott a message 2 weeks before. Son, the 23rd is your dad's birthday. I'm making barbecue, his favorite. Could you come? Just for a little while. He misses you a lot. Scott took 2 days to respond. I can't, Mum. I have an important meeting that day. Say happy birthday for me. I read that message 5 times. It hurt more each time. A meeting. A meeting was more important than his father's birthday. I did not tell Robert anything. I did not want to hurt him more. On his birthday, I baked a triple-layer cake. I decorated the table with flowers from the garden. I put a candle with the number 67. When Robert arrived from work, I hugged him tightly. Happy birthday, my love. He smiled, but it was a sad smile. Thank you, Mary. We sat at the table, just the two of us. Scott's chair was empty. Robert looked at that chair, and then he looked at me. He's not coming. I could not lie to him. No, my love. He said he had work. Robert nodded slowly. He did not say anything else. He cut his cake. He blew out the candle. And he ate his piece in silence. That night, when we were already in bed, I heard him crying in the dark. He was not crying with sobs. He was crying in silence, with that contained crying of men who do not want anyone to see them broken. I got closer to him and hugged him from behind. Everything is going to be okay, Robert. No, Mary, it's not going to be okay. Our son forgot about us, and I don't know why. I don't know what we did wrong. We didn't do anything wrong. We loved him. We gave him everything. Maybe that was the mistake. Maybe we gave him so much that now he does not value anything. I had no answer. I just hugged him tighter. More months passed. I kept sending messages. I kept trying. Son, how are you? I'm sending you a picture of the garden. The gardenias bloomed beautifully this year. Son, I made your favorite mac and cheese. If you want, I can drop some off. Son, your dad hasn't been feeling well. Could you call him? It would do him good to hear your voice. The replies were increasingly scarce, colder. Fine, Mum. Thanks, Mum. But it's not necessary. I'll call him later. But he never called. I became an expert at finding excuses for him. When the ladies in the sewing class would ask me, "And your son, Mary, how long has it been since he visited?" I would reply with a forced smile, "Oh, you know how young people are. He's very busy with work, but he'll be here soon." When Robert would ask me, "Do you think Scott will visit us this weekend?" I would reply with false hope, "Sure, my love. He must be organizing things." I became a professional liar. I lied to protect Robert. I lied to protect myself. I lied because accepting the truth was too painful. The truth was that my son had abandoned us. Not physically, but emotionally, he had erased us from his life. And I, in my denial, kept clinging to the hope that one day he would be the boy who hugged me every morning again. But that boy no longer existed. In July, Robert began to feel sick. He got tired easily. His chest hurt. I begged him to go to the doctor. "It's nothing, Mary. I'm just tired." "Please, my love, do it for me." He finally agreed. We went to the local community clinic. After several tests, the doctor called us into his office. "Mr. Stevens, your heart is weak. You have heart failure. You need to take very good care of yourself. No stress. No worries." Robert nodded. I took his hand. That night I sent Scott a message. "Son, your dad is sick with his heart. The doctors say he has to take care of himself. Could you come see him? I think it would do him a lot of good." I waited for his reply for hours. It finally arrived. I'm sorry, Mum. That's too bad. Send him my regards. I'm on a business trip. I'll visit when I get back. He never got back. Or rather, he never came to visit us. Robert got worse as the months passed. I became his nurse. I gave him his medicine on time. I prepared low-sodium meals for him. I accompanied him to all his doctor appointments. But what hurt Robert the most was not the physical heart. It was the emotional heart. It was his son's absence. It was the silence where there had once been laughter. One October afternoon, while Robert was resting on the sofa, I sat beside him. Mary, if something happens to me, don't say that, my love. Listen to me. If something happens to me, I want you to know that everything I have is yours. The house, the savings, everything. You deserve it. You are always by my side. Robert, don't talk like that. You're going to be fine. He took my hand. His eyes were full of tears. Promise me you're going to be okay. Promise me you won't let anyone hurt you. I promise you, my love. But I did not know that this promise would be the hardest one to keep, because the one who was going to hurt me was my own son. Mary closes her eyes, breathing deeply, preparing for what is coming. I still wonder if I did the right thing by continuing to insist. What about you? Have you ever loved someone so much that you forgot to protect yourself? Robert died on a November morning. It was peaceful, in our bed, with my hand holding his. There were no alarms, no screams, only his breathing that grew softer and softer until it ceased to exist. I was awake, as if my body knew that night I had to be alert, as if my heart was preparing me for the most painful goodbye of my life. At 3 o'clock in the morning, I felt his hand relax in mine. Robert, I whispered in the dark. There was no reply. I got up quickly and turned on the light. His face was peaceful, almost smiling, as if he had finally found peace. No, 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 I repeated, touching his face, his chest, looking for a heartbeat that was no longer there. Robert, please don't leave me. Not now, not like this. But he was already gone. I called the ambulance. They came, confirmed what I already knew. They spoke to me with technical words that I could not process. I only remember that one of the paramedics put a hand on my shoulder and said, "I'm so sorry, Mom. Is there anyone we can call?" Scott. I had to call Scott. With trembling hands, I dialed his number. It rang 5 times before he answered. "Mom?" His voice sounded sleepy, annoyed. "It's 3 o'clock in the morning." "Scott? Your dad?" My voice broke. "Your dad died." There was silence on the other end. "What?" "He died, son. A few minutes ago, here at home. His heart could not take it anymore." Another silence. "I'm on my way." And he hung up. He arrived an hour later with Megan. I was sitting in the living room, still in my bathrobe, staring at nothing. The people from the funeral home had already arrived. They had already taken Robert away. The house was filled with that heavy silence that remains after death. Scott came in. He looked at me from the doorway. What happened? I told him everything. How Robert had been fading. How that night I had felt something was going to happen. How his last breath had been peaceful. He listened without saying anything, without hugging me, without crying. Megan was behind him, with her cell phone in her hand, typing something, as if none of this concerned her. "We have to organize the funeral," Scott finally said, without emotion in his voice. "Yes, son. We'll go to the funeral home tomorrow. Your dad had insurance. He left everything arranged. I'll take care of it." But Scott? I said I'll take care of it, Mum. You rest. Something in his tone put me on alert, but I was too tired, too broken to question anything. They left shortly after. I was left alone in that house that suddenly felt enormous and empty. The following days were a blur. Scott took charge of everything. He chose the funeral home, sent out the obituaries, organized the service. I just nodded at everything he said. I was too submerged in my grief to make decisions. But there was something strange about the way Scott was handling everything. He would not let me see the papers. He would not let me talk to the funeral director. When I asked something, he would reply, "It's already resolved, Mum. Don't worry." The day before the funeral, I was in my room trying to find the black dress Robert had given me. That dress I had worn that Thanksgiving that now seemed like 1,000 years ago. I heard voices in the living room. Scott was talking on the phone. His tone was low, but urgent. I approached the hallway, making no noise. No. The will is read after the funeral. Yes, I have a copy. I already checked it. He paused, and then his voice became more tense. What do you mean everything is in her name? That can't be. There has to be a mistake. My heart started beating faster. Listen to me closely, Scott continued, his voice now loaded with contained rage. My father could not have left everything in her name. He knew I needed that money. We have debts, investments. No, I don't care what the paper says. There has to be a way to— He fell silent, listening. It's fine. We'll talk about it after the funeral. But this is not going to end like this. He hung up. I stood paralyzed in the hallway. My mind tried to process what I had just heard. The will. Robert had left a will, and apparently something in that will had enraged Scott. I returned to my room before he could see me. I sat on the bed with the black dress in my hands and tried to understand. Robert and I had never talked much about wills. He handled those things. I trusted him. I knew he would always protect both of us. But now Robert was gone, and I was starting to realize there were many things I did not know. That night I could not sleep. I tossed and turned in bed, alone, feeling the empty space where Robert used to be. And for the first time in days, my pain mixed with something else. Fear. I was afraid of my own son. The next morning, the day of the funeral, I woke up early. I took a long bath. I put on the black dress. I brushed my hair. I looked at myself in the mirror. I had deep, dark circles under my eyes. I had lost weight. But in my eyes, there was something new, a spark of alert, of suspicion. I went downstairs. Scott was already in the living room, dressed in a black suit, talking on the phone again. When he saw me, he quickly hung up. "Good morning, Mum. Did you sleep well?" "Not much." "It's normal. It's a difficult day." He looked me up and down. There was something strange in his gaze, something cold. "Mum, I need to talk to you." "Tell me, son." "I think it would be better if you stayed here today, at the funeral. There will be a lot of people, a lot of stress, and you haven't been well. I think it's better for you to rest. I'll take care of everything." "Scott, it's your father's funeral, my husband's. Of course I'm going to go." His expression hardened. "Mum, you are not in a fit condition. I am perfectly fit to say goodbye to the man I lived with for 43 years. Scott clenched his jaw. "Suit yourself." And he left the house. I stood there, in the living room, with a bad feeling growing in my chest. Something was not right. Something very serious was about to happen. And I, in my naivety, still did not know that the worst thing about the day would not be saying goodbye to Robert. The worst thing would be what my own son was about to do to me. 30 minutes later, I fixed my hair one last time. I grabbed my purse, I took the keys, and when I went to open my bedroom door to leave, the door did not open. I turned the handle again. Nothing. I pushed. The door did not move. And then I heard it, Scott's voice on the other side. "Stay there, Mum. It's better this way." "Scott, what is going on? Open this door." "I can't, Mum. Not after what you did." "What I did? I didn't do anything. Scott, open this door right now." His voice became venomous. "You disgust me, old woman. You manipulated my father. You sweet-talked him. And now he left everything to you. Everything. As if I did not exist. As if I were not his son. Scott, I don't know what you're talking about. Stay quiet. I don't want to see you at that funeral doing your dramatic suffering widow act. Everyone is going to know what kind of woman you are. Scott, please. I am your mother. Not anymore." And I heard his steps fading away. I heard the front door of the house close. I heard the car engines starting. And I was left there, locked in my own room, banging on the door, screaming, crying. But no one heard me. Everyone went to Robert's funeral. Everyone except me, the wife, the one who had been by his side for 43 years, the one who had loved him until his last breath. They left me locked up, like an animal, like something that had to be hidden. And the only thing I could do was sit on the floor in my black dress and cry. I cried for Robert. I cried for me. And I cried for the son I had lost forever. Mary wipes her tears with a trembling voice, but is determined to continue. I spent 6 hours locked in that room, 6 hours that felt like 6 years. At first, I pounded on the door with all my strength. I screamed until I ran out of voice. I called Scott on the phone again and again, but he did not answer. I sent desperate messages. "Son, please, open the door. Scott, this is crazy. Let me out. Please, I need to say goodbye to your father." No response. I tried to open the window, but Scott had jammed it from the outside with a broomstick. I tried to force the lock with a hairpin, as I had seen in movies, but my hands were shaking so much I could not. Finally, when I had no strength left, I sat on the floor, with my back against the door, and cried. I cried until I had no more tears. Outside, the sun continued its path. The hours passed, and I was there, trapped, while the whole world said goodbye to my husband. I thought about Robert, about his smile, about his large working hands, about how he hugged me at night, about how he called me my love every morning before going to work. I thought about all the people who would be at the funeral home at that moment, the neighbours, Robert's co-workers, the cousins, the construction friends, all of them there, saying goodbye, giving him the last farewell, and I, his wife, locked up like a criminal. What would they be thinking? What would Scott have told them? "My mum could not come. She is very sick. She is too affected." Or maybe something worse. Maybe he told them I did not want to go, that I was a bad wife, that I did not deserve to be there. Just thinking about it shattered me. Around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I heard someone arrive at the house. Voices, footsteps, Scott and Megan. I quickly got up from the floor and pounded on the door. "Scott, open up. The funeral is over. Let me out." Silence. "Scott, please, we need to talk." Finally, I heard his voice on the other side, cold, distant. "Not now, Mum." "What do you mean, not now? I've been locked up here for hours." "This is abuse. You abused my father for years and now you took everything. I don't know what you're talking about. I never abused your father. I loved him with all my soul. I heard Megan's bitter laugh on the other side. You're a good actress, Mary. You should go into theatre. Megan, you have nothing to do with this. I have everything to do with it, she replied with venom in her voice, because your selfishness is ruining our life. Scott and I had plans, investments, a future, and you ruined everything. I didn't ruin anything. I don't even know what will you are talking about. Don't play dumb, Scott said. My father left everything to you. The house, the savings, the bank accounts, everything. He left me nothing. Absolutely nothing. I froze. That can't be true. It's true, I read it in the will. Everything is in your name. But Scott, I didn't ask your father for that. I didn't even know. Of course you knew, he shouted. You manipulated him. You sweet-talked him. You filled his head with ideas against me. And he, like an idiot, believed you. Your father was not an idiot. And I never spoke ill of you. Never. Liar. That word pierced my chest like a bullet. Scott, please, open the door for me. Let's talk. There has to be an explanation. The explanation is very simple, Mum. My father erased me from his life, and you helped him do it. That's not true. Oh no? Then explain to me why the will clearly states, I leave all my assets to my beloved wife, Mary Stevens. She is the only one who was by my side until the end. She deserves everything. Scott's voice trembled as he said those words, but it was not from sadness. It was from rage. See, Mum? The only one who was by my side. That was a direct message to me. A message that said, you weren't there. You don't matter to me. You don't deserve anything. I was speechless, because I knew Robert was right. Scott had not been there. He had not been there on the nights Robert cried in pain. He had not been there at the doctor appointments. He had not been there for birthdays. He had not been there for Thanksgivings. He had not been there. And Robert, in his last will, had simply told the truth. But I was not going to tell Scott that. Not at that moment. Not like that. Son, I had no idea what your father had written in his will. But if that was what he decided, there had to be a reason. Yes, a reason. Because you manipulated him. I did not manipulate anyone. Then give up the inheritance. I fell silent. What? Give it up. If you really didn't know anything, if you really had nothing to do with it, then give it up. Sign everything over to me, and then everyone will be happy. Scott, that house is my home. I lived there for 40 years. And I'm his son, his only son. I have more right than you. Sons do not have more right than wives, Scott. That's how the laws work. To hell with the laws, he shouted, hitting something on the other side of the door. That house should be mine. That money should be mine. Everything should be mine. Megan spoke again. Mary, you are going to give up that inheritance, because if you don't, we are going to make your life impossible. We are going to prove that you manipulated Robert. We are going to fill your life with lawyers, lawsuits, trials, and believe me, you won't be able to handle it. You can't do that to me. You don't have proof of anything because I didn't do anything wrong. We don't need proof, Megan replied coldly. We just need to create doubt, make people talk. Make everyone think you're a manipulative old woman who took advantage of a sick man. You wouldn't dare. Try us. And then Scott said something I will never forget. Besides, Mum, think about it carefully. You are an old woman, alone, without your husband. without your son? Who is going to take care of you when you get sick? Who is going to be there when you need help? Us. We are your only family. And if you alienate us, if you decide to selfishly keep everything, you are going to be completely alone, with no one. Is that what you want? It was a threat, a clear threat. Either I gave up my inheritance, or I was left without family. My heart was pounding so hard I felt it was going to explode. My hands were shaking. My mouth was dry. Scott, my voice came out weak, broken. I am your mother. I gave you life. I raised you. I loved you. How can you talk to me like this? You stopped being my mother the day you took my inheritance. I didn't take anything from you. Your father decided. My father was sick, confused, and you took advantage of that. That's not true. Think about it, Mum. You have 1 week. In 1 week is the official reading of the will with the attorney. By then, I hope you've made the right decision. And what is the right decision according to you? Give it up. Sign everything over to me, and then we can all move on. And if I don't, then get ready for a war. And believe me, Mum, you won't win. Silence. And then, the steps fading away, the front door closing, the car engine starting. They left. And I was left there, still locked up, slowly sliding down the door until I was sitting on the floor again. But this time I did not cry. This time, something inside me changed, because for the first time in my life, I understood something I had never wanted to accept. My son did not love me. Maybe he had never really loved me, or maybe he had loved me when it was convenient for him, when I gave him things, when I solved his problems, when I existed to serve him. But now that he no longer needed anything from me, now that I had something he wanted, I had become his enemy, an obstacle, something that had to be eliminated. I stayed sitting there for hours, in the darkness, thinking about all the times I had justified his absence, all the times I had invented excuses for him, all the times I had put myself aside so as not to inconvenience him. And I realized something terrible. I had raised my own executioner. I had raised a man who believed everything was owed to him, who did not know gratitude, who did not understand sacrifice, who only saw people for what they could give him. And now that man wanted to take away the only thing I had left, my home, my security, my dignity. Around 9 o'clock at night, I heard someone unlock my bedroom door from the outside. It was Scott. "You can come out, Mum. We're leaving now." I came out slowly. My legs were numb. My body hurt from sitting for so long. Scott was in the hallway with the keys in his hand. He looked at me without emotion. "Remember what I told you. 1 week." And he left. I stood in the empty hallway of my own house, the house Robert and I had bought with so much effort, the house where we had raised Scott, the house full of memories of love, laughter, family. And now that house felt like a prison, because my own son was turning it into a battlefield. I walked to the kitchen. I poured a glass of water. My hands were still shaking. I sat at the table where Robert and I had so often had breakfast together. And for the first time, since Robert had died, I did not cry for his absence. I cried for something worse. I cried because I realized I was completely alone. But also, deep within that crying, something else began to be born. Something I had not felt in a long time. Rage. Rage against injustice. Rage against abuse. Rage against manipulation. And also, for the first time in my life, a clear question. Why did I always have to be the one to give in? Why did I always have to be the one to sacrifice? Why did my mother's love have to be synonymous with submission? I did not have the answers yet, but something inside me had awakened, and although I did not know it yet, that awakening was going to change everything. Mary takes a deep breath, wipes her face with dignity, and looks forward. The following days were the darkest of my life. I stayed home, almost without leaving. I barely ate, barely slept. I just walked from one room to another, like a ghost, trying to understand how I had reached this point. The house was full of silence, a silence that hurt. Because before, that silence was filled with Robert's voice, with his laughter, with the sound of his footsteps, with the "good morning, my love" that woke me up every morning. Now there was only emptiness, and worse, I was afraid. Afraid Scott would come back, afraid he would follow through on his threats, afraid of being alone forever. I thought 1,000 times about doing what he asked me, giving up the inheritance, signing everything over to him, and thus getting my son back, getting some family back. But every time I was about to pick up the phone to call him, I remembered something. I remembered Robert's words on his deathbed. "Promise me you're going to be okay. Promise me you won't let anyone hurt you." And I also remembered the words of the will that Scott had read with so much venom. "She is the only one who was by my side until the end. She deserves everything." Robert had protected me. Even in his death, he had protected me. He knew that Scott did not deserve anything, because Scott had never been there. He had never given anything. He had only taken. And Robert, with his last act of love, had given me the security of having a roof over my head, of not being left on the street, of being able to live my last years with dignity. Was I going to betray that act of love? Was I going to throw away my husband's last gift just because my son was threatening me? 3 days passed. Scott did not call, did not send messages, nothing. I did not look for him either. On the 4th day, I received a call from Mr. Lewis, Robert's attorney. "Mrs. Stevens, good morning. Excuse me for bothering you in these difficult moments." "Don't worry, Mr. Lewis. Tell me." "I was just calling to confirm the appointment for the reading of the will. It is this Friday at 11 o'clock in the morning at my office. Will you be able to attend?" My heart skipped a beat. "Yes, Mr. Lewis, I will be there." "Perfect. And ma'am, just so you are prepared, your son Scott is also going to attend. And from what he told me, it seems he is very upset by the content of the will." "I know, Mr. Lewis. He already spoke to me about that. I understand." "Well, I just wanted you to know that I am here to explain everything clearly to you. Mr. Roberts' decisions were very clear and very conscious. He knew perfectly well what he was doing. Thank you, Mr. Lewis. I will see you on Friday." I hung up the phone with trembling hands. Friday. In 2 days. 2 days to prepare myself for a confrontation that I knew was going to be terrible. That night I sat on Robert's side of the bed. Well, now it was just my bed, but it still smelled like him. I could still feel his presence. "Robert," I whispered in the dark, "I don't know if I'm going to be able to handle this. I'm scared. I'm scared of losing our son forever, but I'm also afraid of betraying you, of betraying your last wish." Silence was my only answer. But then something made me get up. Something led me to Robert's closet. I opened the drawer where he kept his personal belongings, his watch, his cufflinks, his old wallet. And there, at the bottom of the drawer, I found an envelope. A yellow, worn envelope, with my name written in Robert's handwriting. "For Mary, read only in case something happens to me." My heart stopped. With trembling hands, I opened the envelope. Inside was a letter, a handwritten letter, with Robert's shaky handwriting in his last days. I started to read. "My dear Mary, If you are reading this, it is because I am no longer with you. And although it hurts me to think of leaving you alone, I know you are strong, stronger than you yourself think. I write this letter because I need you to understand why I made the decisions I made in my will. Mary, you were the love of my life, the woman who gave me the best 43 years a man could ask for. You took care of me when I was sick. You loved me when I had nothing left to give. You stayed by my side when others left. Our son, our Scott, is no longer the boy we raised. He changed. And I don't know if it was Megan's influence or if he always had that seed within him, and we did not want to see it. But he became someone who only thinks about money, about appearances, about what he can get. The last few years hurt me a lot. To see how he abandoned us, to see how he made you cry, to see how he no longer came even for my birthday, or for Thanksgiving, or when I was sick. I went to see Mr. Lewis 3 months ago. I told him I wanted to change my will, that I wanted to leave everything to you, because you are the only one who deserves it. I know Scott is going to be furious. I know he is going to try to take what is yours. I know he is going to make you feel guilty. But Mary, listen to me closely. Do not give in. Do not give him anything, not out of resentment, but because giving him what he has not earned would be harming him. It would be confirming to him that he can have everything without giving anything. And that is not love, my life. That is destroying a person. Besides, you need that house, those savings, because I am no longer going to be here to take care of you. And I do not want you to depend on anyone, much less on someone who does not value you. I know your mother's heart will want to give in, will want to buy his love. But love, my dear Mary, cannot be bought. And if it has to be bought, it is worth nothing. Let him learn. Let him feel what it is like not to have. Maybe, just maybe, that will wake him up. And if he does not wake up, at least you will be fine, protected, safe. Do not feel guilty about anything. You did nothing wrong. You were just an exemplary wife and a loving mother. If Scott cannot see that, it is his problem, not yours. I love you, Mary. I always loved you. And from wherever I am, I will continue to take care of you. Your adoring husband, Robert. I finished reading the letter with my cheeks soaked with tears. I read it 3 more times, and each time I felt something growing inside me. It was not just sadness, it was clarity. Robert had given me permission to defend myself, permission not to feel guilty, permission to say no. I stayed awake all that night, with the letter in my hands, feeling Robert's presence as if he were sitting beside me. And when morning came, something in me was different. I was no longer afraid. Well, yes, I was afraid. But now I had something stronger than fear. I had clarity, I had dignity, and I had the certainty that Robert had taken care of me, and that I was not going to betray that care. Friday arrived. I woke up early. I took a shower. I put on a simple but elegant dress. I brushed my hair. I looked at myself in the mirror. I was no longer the shattered woman who had cried on her bedroom floor. I was still a woman in mourning. My heart was still broken. But now there was something else in my eyes. Determination. I arrived at Mr. Lewis's office at 11 o'clock sharp. The receptionist showed me into a conference room. It was a sober space, with a long, dark wood table and leather chairs. Scott and Megan were already there. When I entered, Scott did not even look at me. Megan shot me a look of contempt and then continued typing on her cell phone. I sat on the other side of the table, in silence. Mr. Lewis entered shortly after. He was a man of about 60 years old, with glasses and a serious but kind expression. "Good morning," Thank you for coming. I am very sorry for your loss, Mrs. Stevens. Mr. Robert was a great man. Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Scott cleared his throat impatiently. Mr. Lewis, let's get straight to the point. We all know why we are here. Mr. Lewis looked at him calmly. Of course, young Scott. We will proceed with the reading of Mr. Robert Stevens' will. He opened a folder and took out several documents. The will was drafted 3 months ago, on August 12th of this year. Mr. Robert came to my office of his own free will, in full possession of his mental faculties, and left very clear instructions regarding the distribution of his assets. Scott leaned forward, his fists clenched on the table. The attorney continued. Mr. Robert owned the following assets: a house located in the New York suburbs with an approximate value of $300,000, a savings account at Bank of America with a balance of $25,000, and a life insurance policy for $50,000. Megan stopped looking at her cell phone. Her eyes gleamed with greed. The will states the following, said the attorney, and then read in a firm voice. I, Robert Stevens, in full possession of my faculties, leave the totality of my assets to my wife, Mary Stevens. She has been my faithful companion for 43 years. She took care of me in sickness and in health. She deserves to live the rest of her life with security and dignity. Therefore, the house, the bank accounts, and the life insurance policy remain in her name without any restriction. Scott jumped to his feet, causing his chair to crash backwards with a bang. This is a farce. My father was sick. He was confused. She manipulated him. Mr. Lewis looked at him without flinching. Young Scott, I can assure you that your father was in perfect possession of his mental faculties when he drafted this will. I evaluated him myself. We spoke for more than an hour. He knew perfectly well what he was doing. You're lying! You are in collusion with her! Scott, control yourself, I said, with a firm but calm voice. He looked at me with a hatred that chilled my blood. You don't tell me what to do. You stole my inheritance. I didn't steal anything from you. Your father decided. My father was a manipulated old man. Mr. Lewis hit the table with the palm of his hand. Young man, I demand respect. Mr. Robert was a man of integrity until his last day, and if he made this decision, it was because he had his reasons. Megan stood up too. Mr. Lewis, this is clearly unfair. Scott is the son, the only son. He is entitled to something. Ma'am, the right belongs to whoever the testator decides, and Mr. Robert was very clear. Scott was breathing with difficulty. His face was red with rage. I'm going to contest this will. I'm going to prove there was manipulation. You can try, the attorney replied calmly. But I warn you it will be a long, costly process, and very difficult to win. Mr. Robert left everything documented. There is even a video recording where he explains his reasons. A video recording? Yes. He insisted on recording it, in case there were problems after his death. Would you like to see it? Scott and Megan looked at each other. Yes, I want to see it. The attorney turned on a screen on the wall, and there, suddenly Robert appeared. My Robert, sitting in that same office, wearing his favorite blue shirt, with his face tired but serene. A lump formed in my throat. On the screen, Robert began to speak. My name is Robert Stevens. I am 67 years old. I am in full possession of my mental faculties. And I want to make it clear without a doubt that I leave all my assets to my wife, Mary Stevens. He paused, and then he continued. I know my son Scott is going to be upset. I know he is going to think this is unfair. But I want to explain why I made this decision. Robert looked directly at the camera, as if he were looking at Scott. Son, I loved you since the day you were born. Your mother and I gave you everything we could. We raised you with love. We sent you to college. We supported you in everything. But in the last few years, we lost you. You are no longer the boy we raised. You became selfish, distant. You forgot where you come from. You forgot who we are. And worst of all, you forgot your mother, the woman who gave you life, the one who took care of you when you were sick, the one who cried when you left to study, the one who always, always, always defended you. Robert's voice cracked a little. When I got sick, I waited for you to come. I waited for you to call. But you didn't. On my birthday, I waited for you to at least send a message. But you didn't. On Thanksgiving, I thought you would come for dinner with us. But you left after 20 minutes. Your mother cried all night. And I realized that you were no longer my son. Or at least you were no longer the son I knew. Robert took a deep breath. That's why I decided to leave everything to Mary. Because she was there. Because she loved me. Because she deserves it. It is not a punishment for you, son. It is justice for her. She needs to be safe. She needs to have a roof over her head. She needs to know that I took care of her until the end. He paused again. If one day you wake up, if one day you understand what you lost, if one day you realize that money is not the most important thing in life, I hope you look for your mother. I hope you ask her for forgiveness. Not for the will, but for having abandoned her, for having made her cry, for having broken her heart. Robert looked intently at the camera. And if you don't, if you decide to continue with your rage and your resentment, then know this. You lost. You didn't lose money. You didn't lose a house. You lost the woman who loved you most in this world. And that, son, is priceless. The screen went black. The silence in the room was absolute. I was crying. I could not stop. Megan looked at the floor, uncomfortable. And Scott was pale, motionless. The attorney turned off the screen. That's all. The will is completely valid. Mrs. Stevens is the sole heir. The documents are ready to sign. Mrs. Stevens, if you wish, we can proceed today. I nodded, wiping my tears. Scott did not say anything. He just picked up his jacket and left the office like a wounded animal. Megan followed him, giving me one last look of hatred before disappearing. And I stayed there, with Mr. Lewis, signing papers, signing my security, signing my dignity, signing Robert's last act of love. When I finished, the attorney put a hand on my shoulder. Mrs. Stevens, Mr. Robert loved you very much. He did the right thing. I know, Mr. Lewis, I know. I left that office with my head held high. I had lost my son, but I had gained something more important. I had gained myself. Mary takes a deep breath, with tears but also with strength. The weeks that followed were strange. On one hand, there was an enormous emptiness. Robert was gone. And Scott was gone too. He never called again. He never sent messages again. Nothing. It was as if he had died to me too. But on the other hand, something inside me was changing. Something deep. For the first time in my life, I was completely alone. And that, which at first terrified me, began to transform into something different. Freedom. A painful freedom, yes. But freedom at last. I no longer had to justify Scott's absence to the neighbours. I no longer had to pretend everything was fine. I no longer had to carry the guilt for something I had not done. The first few days, after the reading of the will, I stayed home, processing everything. I reread Robert's letter again and again. I looked at old photos, I cried, I healed, but also, little by little, I began to do things I had stopped doing during the last few years. I returned to my garden, to my gardenias, to my roses. I had neglected them a lot while caring for Robert. But now, with my hands in the dirt, I felt something beginning to grow inside me too. I returned to my sewing classes. I called the ladies who had been my students for years and told them I would be teaching again. They were happy, and so was I. And something more important, I started walking again in the mornings. Before, when Robert was alive, we walked together every morning in the park. After he died, I could not go back. The park hurt me. It reminded me of him. But one morning, exactly 3 weeks after the funeral, I decided to go. I put on my sneakers, I grabbed my sweater, and I walked toward the park. It was early. The sun was just rising. There was that fresh morning smell, the birds singing, the sound of the leaves moving in the wind. I walked along the same path Robert and I used to walk, and instead of pain, I felt something like peace. I talked to him in my mind. Robert, I'm here. I'm doing what you asked me to. I'm taking care of myself. I'm being strong. And I felt in a way I cannot explain that he was happy. As I walked, I ran into Mrs. Hill, a neighbour I had known for years. Mary, how lovely to see you. How have you been, dear? Fine, Mrs. Hill, little by little. She looked at me with those wise eyes that older women who have lived a lot have. I heard about Robert, and I also heard about your son. I was quiet. I did not know what to say. Mary, I'm going to tell you something no one else will tell you, and I say it because I care about you. Sometimes mothers suffer more from their children than from anything else in life, because we love them so much that we forget about ourselves. We put ourselves aside, and we believe that is love. But it is not. Love is also knowing when to let go. Love is also letting ourselves be loved by ourselves. Her words reached my soul. Robert did the right thing, dear. He protected you. He gave you what you deserved. And now it's your turn to protect yourself. Don't let guilt consume you. Because you did nothing wrong. Thank you, Mrs. Hill, I said with tears in my eyes. She hugged me, and that hug filled me with something I desperately needed. Validation. Someone else, someone from outside, was telling me that I was not the villain in the story, that I did not have to feel guilty, that I had the right to be happy. I returned home that morning with a slightly lighter heart, and I made a decision, an important decision. That afternoon I took an old box out of the closet, a box where I kept Scott's things from when he was a child. His drawings, his report cards, baby photos, his first lost tooth, the card he wrote me on Mother's Day when he was 7 years old. Mum, you are the best in the world. I love you very much, Scott. I sat on the living room floor and went through every item, every memory, every piece of that boy who had been my whole life. And I cried. I cried for that boy who no longer existed. I cried for the man he had become. I cried because I knew I had to do something very difficult. I had to let him go, not with rage, not with resentment, but with love, with the purest love a mother can have, the love that says, I love you, but I can no longer carry you. I love you, but I need to take care of myself too. I love you, but I will not let you destroy me. I put everything back in the box. I closed it. And I put it in the closet. I did not throw it away. I did not burn it, because that boy had existed, and that love had too. But I was no longer going to live in the past. I was no longer going to cling to something that was no longer there. More weeks passed, and then one afternoon, I received a call. It was an unknown number. Hello? Mrs. Mary Stevens. Good afternoon. This is Mr. Lewis. Mr. Lewis, how are you? Did something happen? Ma'am, I just wanted to inform you that your son Scott came to my office yesterday. He tried to contest the will. My heart skipped a beat. And what happened? I explained to him that he had no legal basis to do so, that the will is completely valid, that the video recording of your husband is sufficient proof that everything was done in full possession of his faculties. I told him that if he insisted on going to court, he would only waste money and time on something he would not win. And what did he say? He got very angry. He shouted. He made threats. But in the end, he realized he could not do anything. He left saying that this was not going to end here, that you were going to pay for what you did. I felt a chill. Mr. Lewis, do you think he can do something to me? I don't think he can do anything legally. But, Ma'am, I'll be honest with you. Your son is very resentful, very furious. I recommend you be careful. Do not open the door if he arrives unannounced. Do not sign anything without consulting me first. And above all, do not let yourself be intimidated. It's okay, Mr. Lewis. Thank you for letting me know. That's what I'm here for. Call me if anything happens. I hung up the phone with a pounding heart. I knew this was not over. Scott was not one to give up easily, and if he could not win legally, he was going to try to win in another way. That night I checked all the locks on the house. I checked that the windows were securely closed, and for the first time in my life I was afraid to be alone in my own house. But I also had clarity. I was not going to give in. I was not going to let fear control me. Robert had protected me, and I was going to honor that protection. 2 days later, Scott showed up. It was night. I was in the living room sewing a blouse when I heard the doorbell. I got up and looked through the peephole. It was him. My heart started pounding hard. Mom, open up. I need to talk to you. Scott, it's late. If you want to talk, we can do it tomorrow, in a public place. Mom, please, I just want to talk. 10 minutes. Something in his voice sounded different, softer, less aggressive. I hesitated. Part of me wanted to open the door. Part of me wanted to believe that maybe he had come to apologize, that maybe he had understood. But another part of me, the part that had learned to listen to my instinct, told me no. Scott, if you want to talk, we'll meet tomorrow at the corner coffee shop at 10 o'clock in the morning. We can talk peacefully there. Mum, don't be ridiculous. Open up. It's my house too. There it was, the real Scott. No, Scott. This house is mine, and I'm not going to open up until you talk to me with respect. Respect. You talk to me about respect. You stole my inheritance. I didn't steal anything from you. Your father decided. Shut up. I'm tired of hearing that. He started banging on the door hard. Open up. Open up now. I backed away, scared. Scott, if you don't leave, I'm calling the police. Call them. Let's see what they tell you when you tell them you won't let your own son into his father's house. It's my house, Scott, and you are no longer welcome here. Those words came out of my mouth with a firmness I did not know I had. There was a silence, and then Scott's voice, now cold, calculating. It's fine, Mum. We'll see who wins. But I'm warning you about something. You are going to regret this. You are going to be alone. Completely alone. And when you are an old, sick woman, with no one to take care of you, you are going to remember this day. And you are going to regret having been so selfish. Scott, if that's what you believe, then maybe it's best for us to go our separate ways for a while. For a while? He laughed bitterly. This is not for a while, Mum. This is forever. I don't want to see you again. I don't want to know anything about you. For me, you died the day you betrayed my father. Those words cut through me like a knife, but this time, I did not cry. This time, something inside me remained firm. If that is what you decide, Scott, I respect it. But I want you to know something. I never betrayed your father. I loved him until his last breath, and he loved me. What you don't understand or don't want to see is no longer my problem. I am going to live the rest of my life with a clear conscience, because I know I did nothing wrong. Sure, keep telling yourself that. I don't need to repeat it to myself. It's the truth. There was another silence, and then the sound of his steps fading away, his car engine starting, the noise disappearing in the distance. I stood in front of the door, trembling, my heart racing, but also, strangely, with a feeling of relief. Because it had finally happened, the definitive break. There were no more pretenses. There were no more false hopes. There was no more, maybe someday he will change. He was gone. And I was okay. Scared, yes. Sad, too. But okay. Because for the first time in my life, I had set boundaries. I had said no. I had defended my space, my house, my dignity. And that, although it hurt, also made me feel something I had not felt in a long time. Strong. That night, before falling asleep, I took out Robert's letter again. I read it for the umpteenth time, and when I reached the part that said, "Do not give in, not out of resentment, but because giving him what he has not earned would be harming him," I understood something more. I was not only protecting myself, I was also protecting Scott. Because if I had given him everything, if I had yielded to his threats, I would have confirmed something terrible to him. That he can have everything without giving anything. That he can treat people badly and still get what he wants. That love is bought with fear and manipulation. And that was not love. That was destruction. Maybe someday Scott would understand. Maybe someday, when he had no one left to blame, he would look in the mirror and see the truth. Or maybe not. Maybe he would continue all his life blaming me, hating me, believing I was the villain in the story. And if that was the case, I had to learn to live with it. Because I could not control what Scott thought. I could only control what I did. And what I was going to do was live. Live with dignity. Live with peace. Live honoring Robert's love. And live, finally, for myself. I fell asleep that night with the letter on my nightstand. And for the first time since Robert had died, I had a peaceful dream. I dreamed of him, of his smile, of his hands taking mine. And in the dream, he told me, "I'm proud of you, my love. You are doing the right thing. Keep going. I will always be with you." I woke up with tears in my eyes, but they were different tears. They were not tears of pain. They were tears of acceptance, of closure, of peace. Mary looks toward the horizon, with serenity on her face. 6 months passed. 6 months in which I heard nothing from Scott. He did not call. He did not send messages. He did not appear. And I kept going. At first it was difficult, very difficult. There were days when I woke up and the first thing I thought was, what if something happens to him? What if he needs me? What if I'm being too harsh? But then I remembered his words, his contempt, his coldness, and I remembered Robert's words, do not give in. So I kept going. I went back to giving my sewing classes. I had 5 regular students, older ladies like me, who came not only to learn, but to talk, to laugh, to keep company. They became my family. Mrs. Hill came every Tuesday. Also Mrs. Estella, Mrs. Carmen, Mrs. Beatrice, and young Lucy, who was 30 years old, but told us that she learned more about life with us than anywhere else. One Tuesday, while we were embroidering some napkins, Mrs. Estella asked me, Mary, did you hear about your son? My heart stopped. What happened? No, don't worry. Nothing bad happened to him. Well, bad. No. But I heard from my friend, who knows Megan's sister, that things are not going very well for them. What do you mean? Mrs. Estella lowered her voice, as if she were telling a secret. Apparently, Scott and Megan invested all their money in a business, a restaurant franchise or something like that. They were promised they would earn a lot, but the business went bankrupt. They lost everything, and now they are heavily in debt. I was quiet, processing the information. Megan is furious, Mrs. Estella continued. She says it's all Scott's fault, that he convinced her to invest her savings, and now they have nothing. They are living in a rented apartment much smaller than the house they lived in before, and apparently she is thinking of leaving him. I felt something strange in my chest. It was not joy. It was not satisfaction. It was something more like sadness, a deep sadness, because that was my son. And even though he had treated me badly, even though he had abandoned me, even though he had hated me, he was still my son, and it hurt me to know that he was suffering. Are you okay, Mary? Mrs. Hill asked, touching my hand. Yes, it's just that he's my son, and even though he hurt me, I don't want him to suffer. That's because you have a noble heart, dear. But remember something. What he is experiencing is not your fault. It is the consequences of his own decisions. He invested badly. He trusted the wrong people. He let greed blind him. And now he is paying the price. That's right, said Mrs. Carmen. Sometimes life teaches us the hardest lessons, but they are the lessons we need to learn the most. I nodded, but inside I felt unsettled. That night, at home, I thought a lot about Scott. Should I look for him? Should I offer him help? I picked up the phone several times, dialed his number halfway, and then hung up, because I knew that if I helped him now, I would not truly be helping him. I would be rescuing him from the consequences of his own actions. And Robert was right. That was not love. That was destroying him. So I put the phone away and let life take its course. 2 more months passed, and then on a rainy afternoon in July, while I was watering my gardenias in the garden, I heard the front door. Someone rang the doorbell. I put down the watering can and went to open it. It was Megan, but not the elegant, arrogant Megan I knew. This Megan had dark circles under her eyes, messy hair, simple clothes, and in her eyes there was something I had never seen before: desperation. Mary, I need to talk to you. Megan? Please, just a few minutes. I hesitated, but something in her expression moved me. It's okay. Come in. We went into the living room. I offered her water. She accepted and drank it as if she had not had a drink in days. She sat on the sofa. I sat across from her. What happened, Megan? She looked down. Everything collapsed, Mary. Everything. What thing? The business, the investment, everything. We lost all our money. And not only that. Scott took out loans, many loans, to try to save the business. But it didn't work. And now we are drowning in debt. The banks are suing us. They are going to take everything. Her voice broke. I'm going to leave, Mary. I'm going to divorce Scott. I can't take it anymore. He is destroyed. He doesn't talk. He doesn't eat. He just stares into space. And I can't carry that burden. I have to save myself. And you came to tell me that? No. I came to ask you for something. There it was. The real reason. What do you want, Megan? Money. I need money. Just a loan. To be able to leave. To be able to start over. I'll pay you back, Mary. I swear I'll pay you back. But I need to get out of here. I need to get away from Scott before he drags me down with him. I was quiet, looking at her. This woman who had despised me, who had called me manipulative, who had filled my son's head with ideas of greed. Now she was in front of me, asking for help. Megan, why do you think I'm going to help you? She looked up, surprised. Because you are a good person, Mary. Because you are a good woman. And because I know I don't deserve your help. I know I was terrible to you. I know I treated you badly, but I'm desperate, and I have no one else. And Scott, does he know you are here? No. He doesn't know anything, and I don't want him to know. He is obsessed with the idea that you stole his inheritance. He doesn't talk about anything else. He keeps saying that it's all your fault. That if he had that house, that money, he could pay the debts. He could solve everything. He's lost, Mary. Her words hurt me, because they confirmed what I already knew. Scott had not learned anything. He had not understood anything. He was still blaming. He was still resentful. He was still blind. Megan, I'm not going to give you money. Her face fell. What? I'm not going to give you money. Because if I do, I will be part of the problem. You made decisions. Bad decisions. And now you have to live with the consequences, just as I had to live with mine. But Mary! Besides, if I give you money, what is going to happen? Are you going to use that money to get away from Scott? To start a new life? And him? What about him? Does he stay alone? Destroyed? With no one? He brought it on himself. Maybe, but he is still my son. And I am not going to contribute to his destruction or yours. You need to face what you did. You need to learn. And if I rescue you, you will never learn. Megan looked at me with disbelief. So you're not going to do anything? I'm not going to give you money. But I'm going to tell you something. You have two options, Megan. You can run away, as you want to do. Abandon Scott and try to start over. Or you can stay, face the debts along with him. Look for work, both of you. Live with less, and little by little get ahead. It won't be easy. But if you do it together, maybe you can save yourselves. Save myself, she laughed bitterly. Mary, you don't understand. Scott is not the man I thought he was. He is weak. He is bitter. And he is obsessed with you, with that will. I can't live like this. Then leave, but do it with your own effort. Not with my money. Megan stood up, furious. You are just as selfish as ever. Your husband was right. You only think about yourself. Robert never said that. But if that's what you need to believe to feel better, go ahead. Megan left the house, slamming the door. I stayed sitting in the living room, breathing deeply. I had done the right thing. I was not sure how I knew it, but I knew it. More weeks passed, and one day, while I was walking through the supermarket, I ran into Mrs. Estella again. "Mary, did you hear?" "What happened now?" "Megan left your son. She's gone. Apparently she went back to her family in California." "And Scott?" "Oh, Mary, Scott is doing very badly. They saw him the other day at the discount grocery store, buying the cheapest things. And they say he is living in a rented room, alone, with nothing." My heart sank. "Is he working?" "I don't know, but he looks very worn out, very sad." That night I could not sleep. I thought about Scott, about my son, alone, drowning in debt, abandoned by his wife, penniless, hopeless. Part of me wanted to run to find him. I wanted to hug him. I wanted to tell him, "Come home. I'll help you. We'll solve this together." But another part of me, the part that had learned to listen, told me, "No, not yet. He needs to hit rock bottom. He needs to understand. And if you rescue him now, he will never understand." So I did not go. I stayed home. I cried for him. I prayed for him. But I did not go, because I knew that sometimes the greatest love you can give is to let someone fall so they can learn to get up on their own. 3 more months passed, and then, on a rainy October afternoon, I received a call. It was a number I did not know. "Hello? Mrs. Mary Stevens?" "Yes, this is she. I am Dr. Miller from the General Hospital. Your son, Scott Stevens, is here. He fainted in the street. He's fine. It's not serious. It was due to malnutrition and stress. But he gave us your number as an emergency contact." My heart stopped. "Can I go see him?" "Of course. He's on the 3rd floor, room 312. I hung up the phone, grabbed my purse, and ran out of the house. I arrived at the hospital half an hour later. I went up to the 3rd floor. I found the room, and there he was, my son, lying in a hospital bed, with an IV in his arm, with his face pale, gaunt, unshaven. He looked 10 years older. I approached slowly. "Scott." He opened his eyes. He saw me, and for a moment I saw something in his gaze that I had not seen in years. Shame. "Mum." "How are you, son?" "Bad. I'm very bad." I sat on the chair next to his bed. "What happened?" "I fainted in the street. I hadn't eaten for 2 days. I don't have any money, Mum. I don't have anything. I lost everything." Megan left. "The banks are suing me, and I don't know what to do." His voice broke, and he began to cry, and I, without thinking, took his hand. "Scott, listen to me. You're going to be fine. You're going to get through this. But you need to understand something." He looked at me with tear-filled eyes. "What, Mum?" "That what happened to you was not my fault. It was yours. You made bad decisions. You trusted the wrong people. You let greed blind you. And now you are paying the consequences. That is not unfair. That is life." "I know," he whispered. "I know, Mum. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "What are you sorry for?" "Everything. For treating you badly. For blaming you. For saying horrible things to you. For locking you in on Dad's funeral day. Everything. I was a monster to you, and you have no idea how much I regret it." His words reached my soul, but I did not let myself be carried away by emotion. "Scott, why do you regret it? Because you lost everything? Or because you really understood what you did?" He was quiet, thinking. I think both. At first, when everything collapsed, I only felt rage. Rage at you. Rage at the world. Rage at life. But little by little, while I was alone, penniless, with no one, I started to think, to remember. And I realized something terrible. What thing? That you were right. Dad was right. I abandoned you. I treated you badly, and you never deserved that. You only loved me, and I only thought about myself. Tears streamed down his face. And now Dad is gone, and I'm never going to be able to ask him for forgiveness. I'm never going to be able to tell him I'm sorry, that he was right, that I was a bad son. I got up from the chair and sat on the edge of his bed. I hugged him, and he clung to me like when he was a child, when he was scared, when he needed me. Dad knows, son. Dad knows, and he forgave you. Even before he died, he forgave you. How do you know? Because that's how your father was. He loved you, even if it hurt you, even if it hurt him. He loved you and he wanted you to learn, to grow, to become a good man. Scott cried in my arms for a long time, and I cried with him, not out of pain, but out of relief, because my son had returned. Not the perfect son, not the son who never made a mistake, but the human son, the broken son, the son who had finally understood. Mary takes a deep breath, wiping her tears. He once called me old and said I disgusted him. Months later, I saw him in that hospital bed, alone, with nothing, with that emptiness in his eyes. Life always collects its debts, and sometimes it collects them in the most painful way. But also, sometimes, that is the only way we can wake up. Scott left the hospital 2 days later. I went to pick him up. I took him home, to his house, to the house where he had grown up, to the house he had wanted to take away from me, to the house that now welcomed him back, not as an owner, but as a son. When we entered, he stood in the living room doorway, looking at everything with new eyes. "Everything is the same," he said softly. "Some things have changed, but the essential things are still here." He walked slowly, touching the furniture, looking at the photos on the walls. He stopped in front of a photo of the three of us, Robert, him, and me. It was from when Scott was 10 years old. We were in the park, all three of us smiling. "Do you remember that day?" I asked him. "Yes. Dad took me bike riding, and I fell. I scraped my knee, and you ran like crazy to clean it up. And Dad laughed and told me, 'That's life, son. You fall, but there is always someone who picks you up.'" His voice cracked. I didn't understand that phrase until now. "Your dad was very wise." Yes, and I was very foolish. I took him to his old room. It was exactly as he had left it when he went to live with Megan. His bed, his desk, his college books, everything. "You never changed it?" he asked, surprised. "No, I always thought that someday you would come back. Maybe not in the way I imagined, but you would come back." He sat on the bed and started crying again. "Mum, I don't deserve this. I don't deserve your kindness. After everything I did to you. Scott, let's talk clearly, both of us. No lies, no masks." I sat beside him. "You hurt me a lot. You humiliated me. You locked me in on your father's funeral day. You said horrible things to me. You threatened me. And yes, you broke my heart. He looked down, ashamed. But I also understand something. You were blinded. Blinded by greed, by frustration, by rage, and Megan did not help. She filled your head with wrong ideas, but in the end, the decisions were yours. No one forced you to treat me that way. I know. And now you are here, broken, with nothing. And you have two options. You can continue to be the victim, blaming the world, blaming me, blaming your dad. Or you can get up, learn, grow, and become the man your father wanted you to be. He looked me in the eyes. How, Mum? How do I get up from this? I'm drowning in debt. I don't have a job. I don't have any money. I don't have anything. You have something. You have life. You have health. You have intelligence. And you have a mother who, despite everything, still loves you. How can you love me after what I did to you? Because that's what mothers do, son. We love even when it hurts. But I also love differently now. I am no longer going to love you by putting myself aside. I am no longer going to love you by putting you above me. I am going to love you with boundaries, with respect, with dignity, for both of us. What does that mean? It means you can stay here, in this house, in your room, while you recover, while you look for work, while you get back on your feet. But I'm not going to rescue you. I'm not going to pay your debts. I'm not going to solve everything for you. You have to do that. He nodded slowly. I understand. It also means we are going to have rules, mutual respect, communication, honesty. If you disrespect me again, if you treat me badly again, you leave. And this time, it will be forever. It won't happen, Mum. I promise you. Promises are easy, Scott. Keeping them is the difficult part. So don't promise me anything. Just show me. With actions, with time, with real change. He was quiet for a long time, thinking, processing. And then he said something that surprised me. Mum, can I see Dad's will? Can I read what he wrote? Are you sure? Yes, I need to see it. I need to understand. I went to my room and took out the copy of the will that Mr. Lewis had given me. I also took out the letter Robert had left me. I came back and gave him both things. Read this, both things, calmly, and then we'll talk. I left the room and left him alone. More than an hour passed. When I returned, he was sitting on the floor with the papers in his hands, crying. Dad knew me better than I knew myself, he said with a broken voice. Everything he wrote is true. I became selfish, distant, ungrateful. And he just wanted me to learn, to wake up. And now you woke up. Yes, in the worst way, but I woke up. I sat next to him on the floor. Scott, your dad did not leave you money in the will, but he left you something much more valuable. What thing? He left you a lesson, the most important lesson of your life. He taught you that money is not the most important thing, that relationships are, that love cannot be bought, that respect is earned, and that the consequences of your actions always come, sooner or later. They came. Yes, but now you decide what to do with those consequences. You can sink, or you can use them to grow. He took a deep breath. I'm going to grow, Mum. I swear it. I don't know how. I don't know how long it will take me, but I'm going to get out of this, and I'm going to make you proud, you and Dad. I'm already proud. How? I haven't done anything yet. I'm proud because you came, because you accepted, because you are here, broken, but willing to start over. That takes more courage than anything else. I hugged him, and he hugged me back. A real hug, one of those that comes from the soul. The following months were not easy. Scott started looking for work. It was difficult. Many doors were closed. His reputation was damaged by the debts. But he did not give up. He finally got a job at a logistics company. It was not the managerial position he was used to. It was a warehouse supervisor position. The salary was basic. But it was a start. He also started going to therapy. I suggested it, and he accepted. He needed to heal. He needed to understand why he had made the decisions he had made. And little by little, I began to see real changes. He would come home and ask me, "How was your day, Mum?" On weekends, he helped me with the garden. We watered the gardenias together, like when he was a child. One Sunday, while we were pruning the roses, he told me, "Mum, you know what? Yesterday I went to the cemetery to visit Dad. Yes, I talked to him. I asked him for forgiveness. I told him everything I'm doing. And I felt he was there, that he was listening to me, and that he was happy. I'm sure he was. I promised him something." "What thing?" "I promised him that I'm going to take care of you like he did. That I'm no longer going to be the absent son. That I'm going to be here, for you, always." I was quiet, tears running down my cheeks. "I don't need you to take care of me, Scott. I just need you to be present, to be honest, to be good, to be the man you have inside." "That's what I'm going to be, Mum. I promise you." And this time, I believed him, because they were not just words, they were actions. 1 year passed, 1 year since Robert's death, 1 year since that terrible day Scott locked me in my room, 1 year since the reading of the will that changed everything. And now we were here, the two of us, in this house, healing together. Scott had paid off a good part of his debts. He kept working hard. He kept going to therapy. He kept growing. And I had learned something fundamental. That loving does not mean allowing abuse. That loving does not mean putting yourself aside. That loving means setting boundaries, demanding respect, and sometimes letting people fall so they can learn to get up. One Sunday afternoon, we were sitting in the garden, drinking coffee. "Mum, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Did you ever think about giving us the money? Megan and me, I mean, when she came to ask you for it?" "Yes, I thought about it many times." "And why didn't you?" "Because your father taught me something. He taught me that sometimes the greatest love you can give is to say no. Because if I had given you the money, I would have been an accomplice to your destruction. I would have confirmed that you can have everything without effort, without change, and that would not have helped you. It would have destroyed you." He nodded thoughtfully. "You were right. If you had given me that money, I would not have learned anything. I would have stayed the same, or worse." "Exactly. But it must have been very difficult, saying no to your own son." "It was the most difficult thing I have ever done in my life. But it was also the most important." We fell silent, listening to the birds singing, the sound of the wind through the leaves. And then Scott said, "Thank you, Mum." "For what?" "For not giving up on me, for not rescuing me, for letting me fall, and for being here when I finally opened my eyes." You don't have to thank me, son. That's what mothers who truly love do. They don't rescue, they accompany. They don't put themselves aside, they respect. They don't allow abuse, they set boundaries. He smiled, a genuine smile, like the ones he had when he was a child. Dad was very wise to leave everything to you, because you are the wisest of all of us. I don't know if I'm wise, but I learned, and I'm still learning. Today, as I tell you this story, 2 years have passed since Robert's death. Scott still lives with me, but he is no longer the same man. He is responsible, hard-working, respectful, loving. He finished paying all his debts 6 months ago, and now he is saving up for his own apartment. Not because I am kicking him out, but because he wants to, because he is ready. He still visits his father's grave every Sunday, and sometimes I go with him. We sit there, in silence, feeling Robert's presence. My sewing classes continue. My students became my sisters. And now we also have a support group for older women. We meet every 2 weeks. We share our stories, our pains, our victories. And I tell them my story. I tell them about Robert, about Scott, about the will, about the pain, and about the healing. And they listen to me, and many tell me, Mary, your story saved me, because I was in the same boat, justifying my son, putting myself aside. And thanks to you, I understood that I can love him without destroying myself. And that fills my heart. Because if my pain was good for something, if my story can help a single woman open her eyes, then it will all have been worth it. Robert, wherever you are, I want you to know something. You did the right thing. You protected me when I needed it most. You gave me the strength to set boundaries. You taught me that true love cannot be bought, cannot be begged for, cannot be pleaded for. True love is given with dignity, is received with gratitude, and is cared for with respect. Thank you for loving me like that, with wisdom, with courage, until your last breath. And to you who are listening to me, I want to tell you something. If you are living something similar, if you have a son, a daughter, a family member who is hurting you, who is manipulating you, who is taking away your peace, your money, your dignity, you have the right to say no. You have the right to set boundaries. You have the right to take care of yourself. And that does not make you a bad mother. It does not make you a bad person. It makes you a wise woman. A woman who understood that loving is also respecting oneself. Do not be afraid to let go. Do not be afraid to let them fall, because sometimes the fall is the only thing that can wake them up. And if they never wake up, at least you will be fine, in peace, with dignity, because at the end of the day, the only person you have to sleep with every night is yourself, and you deserve to sleep peacefully. Mary looks toward the horizon, her eyes full of peace, holding a cup of coffee. On the table, next to her, is Robert's photograph and a freshly cut gardenia from the garden. If my story touched your heart, share it. Tell it to someone who needs it, because sometimes a story like this can change an entire day. It can change an entire life. Thank you for listening to me until the end. Every day, a woman, a life lesson. God bless you, and until next time.